All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Joy LaCharre here with you on Matured Musicians Group, and our guest Mark Goldberg is with us. Hi, Mark.
Hello there.
While we're beginning this, yeah, while we begin this broadcast, do want to introduce and give a shout out to my sponsor, Luscious Musk Studio out of Edgewood, Washington, owned and operated by Chad Christ. And he has an environment set up mostly for drummers, but also for guitarists, and he does other things there as well. You can find him on Facebook's website, Luscious Musk Studio, or Luscious Musk Studio in Edgewood, Washington. And he also has a very creative and collaborative environment there that he has created. So if you need to find him, all you have to do is plug it in. All right. With that being said, hi, Mark. I know it's been like kind of a hectic day for you. You were just at work and you probably haven't gathered all your thoughts. But one of the first questions I ask is about your experience. And, I kind of like to devote about 20 minutes to how you got started with music, what your first instruments were when you first played out publicly, and who your influences were.
Well, my influences are, Genesis because they were so adventurous. Steely Dan, same. Beatles, there need no saying there. Elton John was kind of my hero growing up as a kid. And who else? Rush, of course. They blew me away when I first heard them. Pat Metheny is great. A lot of fusion jazz is always great because it just takes you to another place.
Mm-hmm.
I started playing the guitar when I was 14, and I was at a summer camp, and they had guitar classes there, so I took one, and that was kind of how that got started. And I think I learned a lot from the science teacher at school I was at. She had a guitar at her desk, and she always let the students play it, and I learned a bit from her. So
All right. I got a comment already here. I don't know who it is, but somebody's saying, hello, my friends. Please identify yourself as usual. I can't see who you are. Okay. So you started out, that was your first instrument, was your guitar?
yeah, I actually played the drums before that, but I never had a
Oh,
drum set. It was my brother's drum set.
ah,
I would have to practice on, and he eventually sold it for some reason. So
no.
uh, for whatever reason it was, so I just moved to guitar, and then I was briefly in a class in middle school called Beginning Instruments where I played snare drum, but you know it was okay. We did a couple of performances. I remember we played a football game, but nothing ever came of that.
So when you got your guitar, you say you were around 14,
It
15?
was, what was it when I got my guitar?
Yeah, what age were you when you got your guitar?
I was 14 years old.
That's okay. That's what I thought. And then, did you take lessons or did you just listen to the
It
music?
was both. I taught myself a bit, and I took lessons too. And I think lessons helped me somewhat, but I just think I managed to develop a good ear. So
Yeah, very important. I have not
yes.
got that yet.
Mm.
So, you also play the keyboard quite well too. I've heard you play both equally as well. When did that start?
Well, I was going to a lot of like community events and stuff where there were always pianos about, and I wanted to learn to play because I figured if there's pianos everywhere, I should learn. And so I took piano classes at a community college I was going to for three
Oh,
semesters, and I took it from there.
so you had to learn the classics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Beatles, they were a big influence, and I knew Lennon and McCartney both played piano as well as guitar, so I figured if they can do it, I
You
should be able to
did.
do it as well.
So is that primarily the kind of music that you do now? Is rock, early rock, or what would you describe your genre as? Many things.
70s, 80s, and 90s rock, and my own original songs sort of follow that same pattern.
How do you record those? Do you record those on your own computer, or do you go to
I
studio?
was recording them on analog machines at first, right here, and it was a pain to do so because you just couldn't. One of them, I remember you have to, if you were like trying to mix a song or master a song, if you made a mistake, you didn't just have to go back to the beginning, but you had to like erase everything you'd done so far in real
Oh,
time
no.
first. Yeah, that could be majorly painful.
Yes.
So now I use my computer, which is right here. I'll show you. Uh, let's see if I can show you. This is sort of this computer right here. That's sort of my recording. That's where I record my stuff, and I use Studio One software, and I just mix this stuff there, and it's a lot easier, and it's better to get good sounds and everything.
So I'm not really sure how to. I know I've watched Lyle Rongley. I don't know if you know him or not, but for a while he was putting a lot of his stuff on some kind of a pro program, recording program, and he was showing everybody who tuned in how to do all that. And so I'm kind of lost when it comes to that. So I went to a studio, and it costs a lot of money to go to a studio, and
Hmm.
also have to send it out to be mastered. So when you master these yourself, they're ready for all the streaming, like Spotify, and or how does that work?
Well, the first few albums I did the mastering myself, but then I got help with the first. I had an album called "The Truth of New Faces," which I went to what's his name, Chip Butters in Everett, and I paid him to master the album.
Ah,
And then my last album, Superstars, was mixed and mastered with help of a guy named Steve Custrita, who
hmm,
I've never met, but I know him from online, and he's seen my stuff and he's agreed to help because I guess he feels I had something special, I suppose.
yes. Well, what was your first gig that you ever played?
My first gig, I played a show. Well, actually, I played with my band called Warehouse Roots in high school. We did the high school lunch hour in my senior year.
Oh,
Yeah, that was my first show, and I remember it was okay. We did, it was just your typical high school band. It wasn't really anything special.
mhm. Well, it gave you the experience. I mean, that
Yeah.
every bit of experience is important experience. So, where'd you go from there?
Well, after I had trouble playing in trying to find bands that were right for me, just because I'm just a kind of a unique person with weird. I've always had just, I don't know, I'm just a little on a different plane, I guess, from most other people. So I started playing classical guitar for a little while, which
Mhm.
I don't do it so much now because it's extremely difficult to do that kind of music, and
Yeah.
but I was living in Los Angeles and I played some coffee houses in Long Beach and Torrance down there. I did classical guitar shows there.
Wow. How long ago was that?
It was
Well,
in the 90s.
in the 90s. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I joined a couple of other bands, There I guess some experiences with them were good, some were not. And, and I just sort of became, I don't know, because I didn't spend a whole lot of time jamming with other musicians during this time period. I sort of developed my own style and with the finger picking and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Uh,
Yeah, I don't have that ability as of
mm,
yet. Somebody says need to talk to you. I'm not sure what they're saying there. Can you see these comments on your screen?
I can't actually.
You cannot. It's way up in the upper right-hand corner. Does it say comments?
The comments, let's see here. Oh, yeah, just need to talk to you. Hello, my friends. That's all it really says.
No, so far. So they haven't let us know who they are. So
Yes.
it's kind of difficult to answer you guys back. You've got to let us know who you are, please. Okay. So when did you leave California and come up to this area?
1995. I'm from here originally, but
Oh, okay.
1995 I left because I'd had it with LA with then. It was just wasn't a fun place to be anymore. There was a
Yeah.
lot of crime and
Yeah.
horrible, a lot of other bad stuff going on down there back then. So,
Yeah. I got the picture. My dad lived in Whittier, but then he moved to
mm,
Nevada because of it. So
mhm.
I got an idea. Anyway, I know that when you were playing classical guitar, were you playing that like at open mics or how? Yeah, yeah. And at some point, you decided that was too difficult.
Yeah, well, I would play for like 3, 4 hours a night doing classical guitar, practicing that stuff. And I used to get so frustrated because everything, and when you play that stuff, everything's got to be perfect.
Yep. Yeah.
Every little note, every little nuance.
Yes.
And you play, you mess up at one point during a piece when you're practicing, so you go and do it again, and then you'd get that right, but then you mess up somewhere else, and then somewhere else, and then somewhere else each time, and it just can be maddening.
Yes. Well, I think they identified themselves as this Patrick O'Donovan. He's from the Dublin Abbey group. I did an interview with them, and
Hmm.
they do a lot of original music with an Irish flavor to it. And he said, I've heard you mention Lennon and McCarthy quite a bit, but who would you say are your major influences?
Like I said earlier, the jazz fusion artists, Pat Metheny, Miles Davis, Elton John, Genesis, Rush, Steely Dan. Let's see, maybe Sting, Boz Scaggs, Stevie Wonder, Brothers Johnson, people like that.
Elton John, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We can't see it because you're too far off to.
Oh wait, I'll fix that.
Oh, now
Uh,
now I see is your shoulder. There you
there
go.
we go.
I hope that answers your question, Patrick. I have you, and I'm going to ask you if you've ever heard Mark play. He's quite a little one-man show. So, and then I have a man who, or I can never figure out which one's which. Please forgive me, Dono. But there are two people that listen on here, and Dono's one of them, that used to interview people in Europe. One of them's, I believe, from India, and I don't remember quite where the other one is. Maybe he can tell us. But they used to do interviews as well.
Hmm.
I'm glad to see him here. We're talking about Mark's background in music, and we just had a question asking him his major influences. And it seems to me like everybody I interview, what comes out is Lennon and McCarthy, the Beatles, that kind of music. And there's an awful lot of, and Led Zeppelin. Do you do any Led? I don't know.
I can play like some guitar bits from Led Zeppelin, but I can't sing any of that stuff because, Robert Plant, he had a voice that was superhuman.
Yes, I get that.
So, but I listened to their third album a lot when I was first learning to play guitar, and that's got a lot of acoustic stuff on it, cool acoustic stuff. So,
Yeah. So how many albums do you have out there? I'm not sure I know.
as a classical guitarist, I put out two,
I've
and
never
one of
seen
them
that one.
kind of went out of print. They both went out of print, but I still have copies. Uh, as a singer-songwriter, I've done about one, two, three, four, five. One, two, three, four, about five,
5 albums. Wow.
including one EP, and more are coming.
Wow. So how
Yes.
long, over what period of time, Mark?
It started writing, well, I'd been writing since the 90s, but the thing was, I couldn't sing very well then. I was like one of those contestants on American Idol that people laughed at.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But what happened is years later, I took up speed walking, and that alone just did wonders for my voice because all of a sudden I found myself being able to hit notes that in the old days I could only dream about hitting. So,
Wow. So you
mm,
from doing speed walking, which is a form of aerobics, you were able to develop your lung capacity. Is that what
yes,
I'm hearing? Yeah.
yeah. And so a lot of those songs I wrote in the early 90s, I was finally able to perform or record or put down on tape or whatever. So, and then I started writing all these other ideas I'd had knocking around for years. I started putting together and started having songs.
So how do you get how do you write a song? What is your how do you go about your
Sometimes I hear another song that I really like and decide I want to write something like it. So I don't plagiarize a song, but I just find a way to make it sound original. So
Mhm.
It's like the old song, but it's not like it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I kind of learned that. My guitar instructor is Chad Christ. I don't know if you know him.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what we do. I find a beat that I like, or I find a song that I like, the the beat of it
Uh-huh.
and the essence of the song. And then depending upon the words and where I'm going with a song, we often give it a similar flavor but different. So you're not the first one to do that, and it's not plagiarism.
Yes.
So yeah, it's not even the same chords, but it has that flavor, that sound, that spirit of the song in it.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you were to, how do you when you're writing, do you think of um, the hook first, or do you have the song laid out in your mind, or
Just the chord structure laid out in my mind, and then I have to struggle to come up with lyrics next.
do you have that? Do you have that? You have the chords, and then you have your
Mhm.
verse and
Yeah.
lyrics. Okay, yeah. Well, country is a lot simpler, and I've been trying to. I wrote a couple country rock and an actual rock song, and it's a challenge. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, inspiration comes from anywhere at any time. Only I'm right now not able to do anything because I'm not making money. I'm not
Mm.
out there playing. So anyway, from you moved to California. I mean, you moved from Los Angeles area here, and Chad Christ, by the way, Chad Christ did it as well. And it's quite a transition. I think I've never lived in LA. My dad lived in Whittier, which is a suburb,
Mhm.
but I've never lived there. But I do know that there's a lot of really, really good songwriters and musicians coming out of that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when they come up here, it's a different story. It's I think it has its own flavor, its own kind of uh, environment that changes everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you noticed that at all from going coming from there to here?
It's just a mellower environment, I think, which I like.
Here in the Seattle area,
Yeah.
Greater
Right.
Seattle.
Yeah. A lot of people in LA were just very uptight and just kind of, I don't know, it's just an undescribable vibe I can't really describe, but they were just it wasn't always very comfortable, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, I think things deteriorated a lot in that area since I've been there.
Mhm.
It's been years, I would say, at least 30 years since I've been in that area. And I noticed coming into the airport that things were different. And
Yeah.
luckily, I didn't have to deal with it. So, anyway, moving from that, um, did you have any gigs booked, or have any issues or problems during that period of COVID when we started being
Oh,
locked down?
I played one gig in 2020, which is when vaccines were not around and everyone was freaking out. It was at the Route 2 Tap Room in Monroe, and I didn't suffer anything as a result of it, but I remember they shut down their music, live music, right after I played
Oh,
temporarily.
is that the one that's Highway 2 or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I saw Ted Pickett play there once. It was an interesting. He was outdoors. Did you go outdoors? And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So what year was that? Was that 2019, or was that actually 20?
That was actually 2020, June of 2020.
Yeah, they'd already announced what it was. I mean, they
Right, of course.
were sick, but they didn't know with what. And
Right.
that was me.
Huh.
Anyway,
I
so
also remember playing a show at a place in Everett. I don't remember. It was a guy named Sean Keck was the guy who was hosting it, and it was at this one of these wine bars, and that was right in March of 2020, just
yeah,
when COVID
just
started to become a really big thing.
yeah. Wow. So you at that time you weren't doing full time musician. So
No.
it didn't really affect your finances much. Yeah. So were you worried about what might be coming in the future? Are you afraid that?
Yeah, I was a little concerned, but by the time I realized what was really happening, that's when everything kind of shut down, so
Yeah. Did you write during that period of time, or what were you
yes.
doing?
I wrote and recorded my entire album Superstars
Oh,
when we were all in lockdown.
is that out now?
Yes.
It is. I gotta find
It's
these.
on YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, and some other outlets.
And it's called Superstars.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other one, the one with the classical music on it?
That's not available on any outlet. Actually, I think Planet Quest may be on CD Baby. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It was in 2007. It might still be there, but it's
Okay.
been a while.
All right. Yeah. So are you going through CD Baby now?
Not anymore. I'm going through DistroKid.
Oh, that's a new one. But I've seen that. I've seen that one out there, but I've never used it.
Yes.
What's the difference between the two?
I'm not sure if there is a difference, but you don't have to pay so much to be on DistroKid. And
Ah,
they put your so
yeah.
that's the only difference I can truly think of.
Mm. Well, I haven't. I got 2 songs to put out there yet, but I've been kind of holding off. Uh, I wanted to get my music repertoire together and get it perfected to the point that I liked it and felt comfortable with it. So I haven't put them out, but I will put them out this fall. And
That's
then
good. Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I don't think music in this area is a money making deal unless you're super, super good and a well known band.
No, I will say, as a solo performer, I've made far more money than I
Really?
ever made in bands because playing in bands, at least it's been my experience, I've hardly ever earned a cent.
Oh,
Maybe that's a sign. I don't know.
yes, I would think it would be. Yeah.
Of course, I am currently sort of doing a duo with a friend of mine, and we're hoping to play some gigs too. So that
Yeah.
might lead to a few things.
Yeah. Well, you have more of a capability than I do on the guitar. So
Mhm.
I haven't been doing it for very long. So
Yeah.
well, I have, but it not as long as most of the people that I interview.
Mhm.
Yeah. But anyway, that moving right along. So are you also going to jams too, or have you kind of stopped doing that because you're out there?
I go to open mics a lot. Jams sometimes. Sometimes it
Is
just depends on when I can get out there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think bands. I mean, there are bands that like to play in dive bars and clubs, that kind of thing. I'm not into that. Uh,
Yeah.
I did that 15 years. I don't want to do it anymore, and I still have to try to figure this thing out. And it seems to me that what's going on in the wineries and the breweries are like 2 people usually.
Mhm.
And I think you have to have the right person that can harmonize. And for me, they'd have to do more lead than rhythm.
Yes.
Yeah. And I understand that if you put letters out and you go ahead and contact all these wineries and ask them if they have music,
Yeah.
and you send your EPK if they're interested, if they have music and they want your stuff, that's the way to go about it. So I guess the question that I have for you is, how have you been going about getting your gigs? And do
I
they?
just try to call people and then send them like YouTube videos and just see if they're interested in what I have to offer.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
sometimes they are interested, or sometimes they just
Uh,
flake out or whatever.
Did you ever? I know I gave you a lead for a lady who, not sure what that was all about. I don't think she represented what she was doing quite the way I
Yeah,
hoped.
I'm sure I remember that, but I'd have to look at it again.
Yeah, it was La Connor. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the art
I did
festival.
play in La Connor, yes.
10th anniversary. Yeah. I had hoped she was going to do more than that because they were building a stage and they wanted musicians to come, but that kind of dried up. So
Sure.
I don't know what's going on out there. We were out in Anacortes, and the only people that I've seen out there so far, because I haven't been following it, I didn't even know they
Yeah.
had music, is Heart by Heart, Chad Chris and
Oh, yes.
Summer, and yeah. Yeah, and anyway, that was my experience, and I think there's some things that you can do. I don't know. Have you ever worked with a booker, or do you do this only on your own?
I do this on my own, really.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any real management places or broker things or whatever that these days. I was a member of one thing during my classical guitar years. It didn't really amount to much, though.
Hmm. That's yeah. Well, I'm not particularly fond of bookers. We always booked our own, but now I don't know. It's a little different market to start out because um, I don't have any gigs to show them, so it's very
Hmm.
difficult. So, in your experience, knowing what the market's like and knowing what you're doing, do you have any advice for people? Anything that you learned along the way you'd like to share?
All I can say is just try to get yourself out there as much as possible and try to connect with as many places as you can. That's all I can really say.
Well, I've been doing that through gigging, and um, so far I haven't put myself out there, and I
Yeah.
haven't wanted to. But there are people that listen to this, and they do wonder, singer songwriters. Okay, where did I find this? There's right now there seems to be an awful lot of bands. I get all this information because of matured musicians,
Yes.
and the unbelievable amount of bands playing everywhere. I can't remember that it was ever that busy before COVID.
Oh yeah, of course.
Mhm. I don't know.
It's
Anyway,
amazing.
things are changing, and they're changing rather rapidly.
Yes.
So now, what was your goal when you started? When you came to Seattle, did you have any goals or any ideas where you'd want to be in 5 years? And do you still have
Um,
a vision?
I just was sort of throwing. I wasn't so sure. You see, I moved up here simply because I was a college student at the time,
Ah,
and I was kind of not. Ended up taking some training classes for like office work, which turned out to be, I did get a certificate, from the college, but it still kind of turned out to be that what they taught me turned out to be useless. So,
no,
I mean, because, the jobs I'm doing now, I mean, it's just like I could have done that without that
not
stuff.
that, not that expense.
So what I'm doing now is what I did is that's when I started playing classical guitar in earnest and trying to get gigs doing that. And I did get I remember I played I had a job in restaurants playing that kind of stuff,
Mhm,
which was kind of cool in some ways and not so cool in other ways.
mhm.
Some of these restaurants, you get these people who would show up and drink a bit, and they wouldn't get drunk, but they'd get just have enough to drink that they'd start getting loud and start, talking real loud, and it was like laughing at everything. It's like, yeah, let's have tiramisu for dessert, things like that.
Yeah. I don't know what that scene is like around here.
Yeah,
Especially if you're you by yourself singing. Have
yeah.
you have you done ever did a stint with busking?
I'm sorry if I've ever done busking.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Snohomish, I did busking, and in Everett at the farmers market, I did that too, I
Yeah.
think.
How did that go? How are buskers accepted out there now?
If you're actually allowed to be a busker, then it goes pretty good, actually.
Yeah. Well, I haven't tried that yet, but I know a lot of buskers that have. There's a guy. His name is Iggy Doo, I believe, and
Mm,
he's out of Asheville, North Carolina. But he was a fan of Lyle Ronliner, or Ron Lane, sorry. Anyway, he started out busking out there, and he actually got himself a gig, and now he's a radio announcer, and he does his program, and he goes live, and he goes to different places, but he became quite successful. I'm amazed at how that worked, at least in that area. I haven't seen it
mm,
much here.
that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. So I guess he's doing quite well, and he's making money and doing his thing. He's a
Mhm.
full-time musician now. But I haven't seen that same thing around here, and I've been looking for it, but I don't see it anywhere. So I guess
Mhm.
I think just probably not something a lot of people do, or they don't let you do it. I don't
Yeah.
know what's stopping it. Yeah, so going from there, did you ever have any? Well, I asked if you had a plan or some vision of where you wanted to be in the future. I guess I didn't get the answer to that yet.
I didn't really have an idea where I wanted to be, you know. I was sort of going with the flow, you know, more or less.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know. I think the more you know and the more connections you make, the busier you get. But
Hmm.
I don't know. Uh, the other thing is, along the way, did you ever have any aha moments or experiences that helped you realize that you were doing the right thing, or that you were on the right track, or just something that changed you not completely, but changed your course and headed you in a different direction?
Well, I think, you know, I've been told so many times when I was a little, you know, I was in my 20s that I couldn't sing and I ought to just
Yeah, yeah.
either get another singer or forget about it and just stick to the guitar and do nothing else.
Mhm.
But once I started doing the speed walking, I think, and my voice started to improve, I got involved with Tim Noah's Thumbnail Theater in Snohomish,
Ah,
and they put on tribute shows to Woodstock and Motown, and I was allowed to actually play and sing in the shows, and
ah.
I seemed to get a really good reaction, and that sort of kicked the door open and put an end to my classical guitar days, if you will,
So that was your aha moment,
kind of.
kind of. At what point did you pick up your lovely wife?
Anne
He,
Marie and I met in 2008 at a bowling alley meetup. Meetup.com held an event there, and that's where we met.
ah, I noticed that you just had an anniversary. Is that correct?
We just had an anniversary, yes.
But ours is coming up on the 8th. So,
We've been together 8 years.
yes, that's wonderful.
I mean, we've been married 8 years, but been together longer than that, though.
Yeah, exactly. We were too. So, going forward, what kinds of things do you have coming up, or what are things at this point that you'd like to promote about your music? Do you have
I'm
anything?
going to be playing Ingles Pub in Edmonds most
Yes,
likely
I
day
saw
after
that.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
And then I have something at the Snowtown Brewery in Snohomish on Saturday.
that's this Saturday, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
From about 4:45 to 5:45, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I don't know where I saw that. You must have posted something because I've seen these gigs on Matured Musicians or somewhere. I'm not
Yeah.
sure where they are. And do you have anything at Oxford yet?
Nothing yet. The Oxford has not shown any interest in booking me for anything, to be honest. You know, I played some open mics there because they instructed me if you want to get a gig here, you should play some open mics, which is what
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And then the guy who runs the thing, he said, "Oh, I'll book you one of these days, but I don't know when," which struck me as kind of evasive, if you will.
Yeah, Larry does do the booking there. And oh shoot, somebody's trying to get this. Sorry, I gotta shut my phone off here. Yeah, Larry, he usually, I think it isn't just to go there, it's if you're a constant there, eventually you'll get a gig, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not interested in me either. So,
Okay.
I mean, at least I've never asked him, but I don't see an, I mean, he's a great guy and
Yes,
you
he
know,
is.
and he does a lot for his people that come there and sing and play.
Yes.
But I haven't asked him because I'm not ready yet. I'm not
Sure.
I like I said, I want all the songs that I do to be a little more polished, and then I've got to find somebody who can do them, and
Sure.
that's that's a major part of it. I think I'm on the right track, but I'm not quite where I want to be. So
Yes.
yeah,
You're always great. It's always great hearing you.
thank you. I don't know. I try to, I think like that classical music, I try to do these songs perfect, and you can't. I
Yeah.
don't know anybody who could go up on stage and do every single thing perfect.
I was once in a band that was trying to make it in Los Angeles. I wanted to make it at the same time too. And of course, with that band, everything had to be perfect.
Yeah,
And if the guitar was even the slightest bit out of tune, or even there was the
yeah,
slightest mistake, it was like committing a capital crime, and almost, you know.
yeah. I get it. I really get it. I just did you ever study when you went to college? Did you ever study music theory?
Never studied theory. I mean, I don't know if I've ever really understood it, but in some ways, I think that maybe helps me a bit.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I took piano and singing in college, and
Hmm.
um, I had a partner who played the guitar, but I just knew the chords. I didn't do anything fancy, but he was a real picker in
Sure.
classical music. So I never did study theory, but then I started getting during COVID, I started going and getting guitar lessons from these different people because each one of them had something I wanted to learn. And so I got a little bit of theory. And I mean, I get it all. I get the modes, I get all this stuff. But that's one thing, and thinking is just one thing, and actually doing it is quite another thing. And
Sure.
I have I was not a drummer, and that's you said that's where you started, and I think that gives people uh, more natural rhythm. There, I think
Yes.
most people who are drummers can get that, and I haven't got that yet. I still have to look at charts to get the beats and
Right.
figure out how to put a song together. So yeah, it's not easy, and people that think that they're going to go up and become a star, that's going to probably not going to happen.
Right.
But the wave of the future, and we've been talking about this in our other interviews, is the wave of the future is actually independent artists putting their music out there without big rare companies and all the rest. And I know a few people that are doing that. Have you ever heard of a Chris Jones band?
Don't think I it does ring a bell actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if I've
he
ever heard
plays
their
both
stuff
rock
though.
and country. He's a singer-songwriter, Chris is. And he's been working with Jessica Lynn Whitty, who is another country artist out of Tacoma.
Hmm.
And they've been touring and doing fairs and all kinds of stuff together, as well as separately.
Sure.
And now I forgot what I was going with that. Anyway, yeah, but he's a good example of how you can, you know, make money and put yourself out there and get those gigs and tour. Uh,
Yeah.
and they do a lot of like James Howard and Jessica and Chris ask people to go fund their tours, and they manage to get the money together to do it.
Sure.
And so they don't need the studio. I mean, they don't need the record companies or whatever. And
Sure. Right.
Spotify and streaming, they're able to get their music out. And I think that this has changed because of COVID, because people
Sure.
got
Right.
noticed that would have never gotten noticed before. So that's I think something that people who are watching that are artists need to check into if they haven't already. Streaming is for
Yes.
for us without having to wait forever for nothing.
Yeah. Check out Superstars if you can. I'll just put that out. It's on YouTube. The Superstars album is on YouTube. It's a double album, and
What's it about?
it got a lot of styles on it, from hard rock to folk to R&B, even funk and blues, and it's got what else? Elton John style piano stuff, instrumental, almost prog.
Oh,
So
I'll
yeah.
check it out. I was interested when you talked about it. So,
Mhm.
is there a way we can put that out on matured musicians? Do you know how to? Do you know how to?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can put it on a mature musician,
Also,
sure.
your schedule, so people know when you're playing.
Yes.
All right. So, what have you got in the works right now as far as what you're working on?
2 albums. One I'm thinking about calling Farewell to Rockland because it's maybe the last album of rock songs that I do, at least for a while, because I'm sort of maybe moving just a little bit away of that.
Ah,
It's sort of I've also got another album which is sort of much more of a jazz fusion pop light R&B album, kind of like Steely Dan, Stevie Wonder type thing, you know.
hmm, okay. So, what do you think you're going to have that out?
It depends on just how. Well, first I want to get someone have somebody take a listen and just see what's because I got more than enough songs from
Hmm.
one of them to see which ones should go, which ones should stay,
Hmm.
and then of course I just have to find someone who for not too an exorbitant price can mix and master the albums
Right,
pro, so that way I got something really killer going.
right. Well, um, I was thinking while you were saying this, I was thinking about how you would how you would go about picking songs that have you ever tried doing them in public before
I
you
have. Sometimes on
how's that
Facebook, you
work?
don't even with your own friends, they don't really comment much, or it sort of passes them by, or they just don't say anything.
Ah,
There are some sites where you could have gone to check out and get some feedback from people, but those most of those sites are gone now, or they faded away. And in the ones who haven't, nobody really pays attention to what's going on there, it seems anymore. So
I'm gonna have to
makes it kind of tough.
yeah, I'm gonna check into that because I did this thing. I think it's called indie radio or some silly thing, and you got to pay almost $200
I
to
know,
yeah.
crazy.
And I've been told not to do that. So, but anyway, I checked it out and I liked the music. And, of course they're going to like your music. They want your money.
Right, of course.
So that didn't work. But, yeah. And the other thing is when they're on Facebook, how many hits you get, but then that depends upon how are you marketed. And
Yeah, of
that
course.
it's just like one stumbling block after another. And I keep learning, but, you know, I'm not ready.
Sometimes when I post a song on my Facebook page, I like put down the names of people I want, my Facebook friends I want to hear it in a comment below, which
Oh, great.
I'm not sure if that's really something people like, but at least I hope it gets their attention and they
And
appreciate it.
feedback. Yeah, exactly. Well, if you were in bands, I mean, I was told by a couple of people that I interviewed when they were in a band, when they got their band to do the music. And of course, the music is always different than the record because you can't
Right.
reproduce that studio stuff. Okay, exactly. And they would play these songs to see what kind of reaction they got, how many people were dancing, or whether people liked the song or whatever. And I thought, wow, that would be a pretty good way to get feedback. I've never tried it, but it might
Yes.
be worthwhile. So anyway, moving along, we're almost, we got about 15, 20 minutes yet. So if you had, if you had a genie came out of a bottle and and you wanted to ask the genie something for your music, like you got three wishes. Uh,
Hmm.
what kinds of things would you wish for as far as your music and where
I'd
it's
wish from all the technical issues that still I think dodge me as a guitarist and a pianist would just sort of go away. That'd be one. Then I would wish for people to actually sort of come to my show. Well, some of the issues sometimes I still have as a vocalist to disappear.
what
Maybe that'd be the
what
second
hap-
wish.
what disappears?
Some of the issues that maybe I still have as a vocalist
Oh, okay, yeah,
and then the third is for my music to get recognized at least on some level, you know?
right.
Or actually, I take that back. I would have the means to actually record in a professional recording studio all my stuff.
That doesn't really. Um, I don't think that really matters
Yeah.
because of this whole streaming independent artist thing. What matters is how it's marketed. I'm truly convinced that if you know how to market yourself out on the internet,
Yeah.
and on Facebook, which I'm still working on, because they have a lot of things there that help you get that attention and so forth.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. It's really boils down to how many people you can reach, that you can reach, who will listen to your music, who will put
I
that
know.
like
Yeah.
on their check or a comment or whatever. And that's the biggest problem I think that independent artists have told me that they're running into is, how do I market this? How do I get it out there? Now it's easier for bands who go out and play all over the place,
Yeah, sure.
so much easier for them than it is for, those people who do
Yeah.
what you're doing.
CDs are hard because nobody buys them anymore
No, they
at
don't.
all.
No, I put all mine. I put all my stuff for sale for 99 cents if they want it. Then they can go back there and get it however many times they want it. They can
Yes.
download it, whatever. But it's not. It's not going to make me any money. They're not going to.
Yeah. Right.
Because all they have to do is go to the stream. They get it for free. Why would they even?
On DistroKid, I think I've made about, I don't know, close to $40.
No.
I can get get lunch at Applebee's with that.
No, I'm not going to pay for it, right?
Right.
Well, to go back to what I said and what we were talking about a little bit about studio, I think it's really important to go to studio and get it professionally done. However, I don't think that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, one recording, what you have to. I mean, I had a producer on here from London Studio. I don't know if you've ever heard of London Studio, but
I don't think so.
he did all the greats like Alice in Chains and all these
Sure.
rock stars in this area back in the 80s and 90s. I'm not sure when it quit in the 90s, but his name is Jonathan Harris, and he bought it. He used to
Uh-huh.
work there, and then he bought it. And he said his recommendation was to do some part of the CD or the recording in studio, and in that way it isn't as expensive, but it also has that studio quality to it. So you're not
Sure.
paying thousands and thousands of dollars for all of this.
Yeah. Which is money I'll never have, of course. But
Or most people like us.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So exactly. So yeah. So anyway, that was his recommendation, and I kind of think that's a good idea. But I don't do it, so I don't know what part. As somebody like yourself, or doing it by yourself, I don't know what part of that would need studio work. Maybe the drums, maybe some background um, musicians that are.
Maybe I'm just thinking mixing and mastering could be done at the studio because, and who
Well,
knows, maybe some other embellishments or whatever.
yeah, not all studios. I've been finding this. Not all studios master.
Yeah.
Um,
Some do, but not
Yes,
all.
some
Yeah.
do. And finding them and finding a good one is difficult. I mean, obviously, I got mine produced in Chad's studio, Luscious
Yeah.
Moss, but I had to send it to California to be mastered by a guy
Right.
that he trusted to do it. And, he's very expensive. So
Yes.
we thought about going, trying to find some other places that do that type of thing that are not as expensive. So it's kind of in the works right now because I haven't had
Sure.
it mastered. It's all produced, it's not mastered.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to give a shout out to Steve Castrita, because he's the one who helped me. He
All right.
mixed and mastered Superstars for me as a favor. He never actually charged me anything for it.
Wow.
He was so blessed his heart.
What is his last name? How do you spell it?
Caustrita.
Okay. That's a good lead right there. And who is he connected with? What is his connection?
I know him from MacJams.net, which is where he heard my stuff originally.
Okay, and he has a studio that he masters all this in?
I think he does.
You don't know the name of it though.
No. Actually, I take that back. I'm trying to remember what the name of it was, but if you don't, let me just get my phone out for a minute, if I may. because I can look at my emails, my old emails, and I can see Steve. He always put his studio down.
Ah, okay.
So let's just see what he says. Just see here. Just a moment here, and I'm bringing it up. Thanks for bearing with me.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Steve. Oh, it's called Smoke Cloud Entertainment.
Smoke Cloud Entertainment. There you go,
Yes.
guys. If you're looking for a place. All right, Smoke Cloud Entertainment. Now I'm going to give me a minute because I'm going to put that in my notes. Smoke Cloud Entertainment. Yeah, doggone it. Where am I doing that? Okay. Smoke Cloud. All right. And moving right along, if we got through your 3 wishes. So
yes,
what advice do you have for people out there for getting started in this area, and other than the technical part of it, where you get your songs produced and mastered and put them out on the internet or whatever streaming platform you want them, what advice would you give people who might be listening, who might be thinking of, who knows, but if they're thinking of doing professional recordings and going out and doing gigs by themselves or with one other person or whatever, what advice do you think that you've learned along the way would you like to give them?
Follow what's in your heart, and don't just do something because it's popular, or don't worry about being commercial or being in style. Just worry about being good.
Absolutely. Well, you got that genie's help, so you're going to be good. I have to tell you this. I've never really had any problem with my singing as far as people liking it or not like. I mean, some people are going to, some people aren't. But I've had a lot of put downs. I've had a lot of put downs along the way, and people telling me that I started out around here karaoke singing and met musicians and eventually formed a band and then played for 15 years. We were very, very busy. We weren't the best band around, but we were good. And, I would get kicked in the teeth a lot. And it was like, I had to ignore it. I mean, I just had to ignore it. But I worked with a guy who's well known in this area, who I won't mention, but I asked his help in writing a rock song, right?
Uh-huh.
After it came out and it was mastered and everything was done on it, he said, "Great song, great backup music, great presentation, lousy singer."
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Lousy singer.
Did they say you were a lousy singer?
Yes, he said
I'm sorry.
He
I'm
didn't
sorry.
say it like that. He just said not a good singer. And
Yeah, I've on some of my very early recordings, I had a guy online. I don't remember his name, but he was quite brutal with me, saying your voice is nasal. It's totally off key. What's wrong with you? And
oh yeah,
but I've been working on that really hard because
right.
my songs are so unique that I just feel that there's only one real person who can really
That's right.
just really get the songs and sort of interpret them, or just sort of just do them the right way I sort of hear it in my head, and that's moi.
Exactly. And the same with me. I've learned to appreciate what I do. I don't
Yes.
always do it. Sometimes I have to fight, with myself.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to give you more self-confidence than believing in yourself. Hard to do, but
Yes, it is.
it's also essential to be tough enough to be able to take the criticism
Oh yeah.
and to go to a gig, do your best, and yet instantly.
Right, exactly.
They've come up against that too.
Yes.
So we have about 6 minutes left.
Okay.
We don't have to use all of them, but just do some freestyle. Is there anything you want to talk about or bring up or?
Well, I will say one experience that made me realize that I was the only one who could really do my songs was I was in a band once with a singer years ago, and I would show him the songs I had. And the thing was, he would refuse to learn the lyrics. He would try to learn them at first and then refuse. He would just do his own lyrics.
I don't
And then
know.
he would just started like totally rearranging everything. So it wasn't even my song anymore. And if I ever tried to, hey, this isn't no cool. I don't like this. He would just like shout at you and like, how dare you talk to me that way? I'm the running. You're being ungracious and unthankful. I'm the guy who runs the band here. Who do you think you are? And it wasn't, to say it wasn't okay dealing with a person like that was understatement. So it helped me sort of pave the way to, my own path, if you will.
Sometimes it takes, I may hate to say it, but
Yeah.
sometimes it takes little incidents like this to move past whatever roadblock there is, or
Yeah.
if you believe what they're saying. Most of us take criticism and try to turn it into a positive. And if somebody complains about this, that, or the other, is to look at it, see if you
Yeah.
think they're right, and then try to fix it.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And I think those are hard experiences to actually live through, but very good experiences when it
Yes.
comes to self reflection and figuring out what you need to do to make it better.
Right, of course.
So
And
a learning process indeed. So with
I've
that,
learned a lot on this journey.
I
And I did forget to say one thing.
okay.
When I was 14 and in summer camp and doing the guitar class, I was
Yeah,
given my first guitar by a guy named Craig Tovman, who is he was heavily involved with the Jewish community and still is, and he
yeah.
always had a great heart, and he's done a lot of Jewish music. He's on YouTube and everything. And he gave me my first guitar when he saw how much I was progressing on it. So I just say, God bless him.
Yes, absolutely. So I was going to ask you, you, the very last thing, you got 3 minutes. You decided that you were going to give a concert, a mini concert in, was it Arlington?
A music festival, because no music festivals invited me to play for them as of yet, or they haven't in a long time. And I just figured if this is the way it's going to be, I want to do my own festival. That's what I need to do.
How did that go?
It went great. Doug Cooper and H.R. Steinerman helped me with it, and I thank both of them for it. And your husband too. He helped a lot, a great deal. So
Yeah. Well, we went there yesterday. We decided to go up to Anacortes, cool off.
yeah.
It was 79 degrees up there and 96 down here.
Oh yeah.
So
Right.
we went past there, and I got to see the beautiful stage, beautiful park, a little gazebo there. And I
Sure.
thought, wow, that's a winner just by itself.
Sure. Yeah.
Did you
Anacortes is a great place. Yeah, definitely.
did you have a lot of people there? Or?
A few. Yeah, we had a few people.
All right. Well, that's all it takes. That's all it
Yes.
takes. So, are you planning on doing anything like that in the future?
Hold on just a moment. Second. Sorry about that. We are planning to. I would like to do something like that again next year. Definitely,
Right.
without question.
Well, if I get any leads onto some of these things, I'll pass them along. I can guarantee.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I do want to thank you and our listeners for being here with us today. People don't always have the time to watch for an hour, or they're working or whatever. So I post this on Matured Musicians and on my Facebook site. And it is also now on YouTube because it's been recording since we started. So,
That's great.
yes, and it'll live on YouTube for quite some time. If you go to my website, my YouTube site, my channel, You can
Very
find
good.
Mark there, and I will send you a copy of that link so you can distribute it however you want and use it however you want.
Sounds great. Well, thank you,
You're very
Joanne.
welcome.
It was great being here, and I look forward to seeing you out there very soon.
Very good. Thank you, Mark, and thank you everybody for being with us today with Mark.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
All right, that ends our program for today. I have a new guest coming on the 8th of August. His name is James Crawford, and I found him in Oxford doing a song that he has just newly produced, and he has put it on. He has put it on the site Matured Musicians, and I believe it's also on my Facebook. But he is Native American, my first Native American on the show. And I think that guy is so super talented. But I do ask you to join us and listen to him next Monday at 2 o'clock. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well, and I'll talk to you next week. Oops, sorry, Mark. Bye, guys.